All right, so we are dealing with Plato, Plato's Apology, and in Plato's Apology, we will be able to understand who Socrates is and how he has been tried in the process during the time that he was having enemies with the sophists in Athens. Now, the Apology has some highlights. Okay, I want you to look at these highlights, and you may find this one in the video that I asked you to watch. And in the video, there was Socrates trying to defend himself, but there was a narrative about the trial as well there. The accusations, okay, the accusations. Now, if you have time, read the text, but most of you perhaps will not dare to be reading this long text. You just want to watch the video. It's fine, okay? Now, but there is a text that video was coming from. Okay, that's one. And then the introduction by Payne, that is on chapter 3. Okay, I want you to read chapter 3 of the textbook, and that is page 23. Okay, so go to page 23. Okay, we're almost there. So page 23 is about ancient philosophy. So we discussed the pre-Socratics and the Milesians, the first group of philosophers. But there is a portion here on Socrates. Here you go. So the first question, Socrates, was this. So try to go to your guide questions. And the first one is, who is Socrates? So it's so easy, because you are just asked any information about his life. So try to work with life story of Socrates. Now, what does it include in the life story? I don't usually demand you to remember the dates, but they can be found in the text. When he was born, where he was born, those are details. But what kind of person is Socrates? That is the most important. So Socrates was an old man, and he was described as old, ugly, but persuasive. Persuasive in terms of discussing something in the agora. So he lives as a poor man and goes or went to the agora. And what is agora? It's the marketplace. And marketplace is the place where people exchange goods, okay, or products. Now, for Socrates, agora has more meaning, and it's not just a place for exchange of goods, but also a place for exchange of ideas. All right. Now, a marketplace is a local. Now, perhaps we don't have a real marketplace now in our area, but if you've been familiar with flea market sites, I went to flea market sites before. We have one closer here in Pearland, somewhere there in 59, somewhere there in 290. I went all of those flea markets before the pandemic, so I am fond of getting some stuff there. Now, you see, there are a lot of people, poor people alike. They trade things, either they sell or they buy. Now, in the past, they don't usually use money or currency to buy something. You buy something through your product, so they barter, they exchange their product. That's why it's the agora, the marketplace where people exchange goods or products. But for Socrates, this is not a place only to exchange products, but it's a place for exchange of ideas. And that is the most important part for Socrates. Now, if you go back to your text here, it says here Socrates is widely regarded as the founder of philosophy and rational inquiry because he asked questions and he used Socratic method to ask question. Now, his period was 470 BC. The pre-Socratics was 585. That is the beginning of the pre-Socratics here. The Milesians, 585. That's the start of philosophy. Now, after 100 years, Socrates was born. Okay, and he died. He was an old man, really. So 399. If you deduct, remember the datings in the past is going down, is decreasing. This is what I explained last time in the timeline, right? Now, Socrates became the teacher of Plato. Okay, so Plato was Socrates' student, and Plato was a narrator of what Socrates said because Socrates did not write anything as he was a teacher. So Plato was the one who made a narrative about the philosophy of Socrates. So when you read Plato's philosophy, think that it may be the philosophy of Socrates as well. And in Plato's dialogues, you have Socrates as the character all the time. Now, the Apology was written by Plato. You have Socrates as the main character there. Now, other sources about the life of Socrates was the plays of Aristophanes and the historical writing of Xenophon. Okay, we will not deal into those writings. Okay, the life of Socrates. Socrates was like a very humble guy. He is perhaps an introvert guy, poor. No, I don't know why the author says ugly, because perhaps the face value, how you look at the person, makes sense here. Because if you look at Socrates, really, he has like a flat nose with a bulging nose, for instance, and it's hard to describe. You may have some ideas about Socrates then when you see some pictures about him. But he was brave. But he was a stoic. Who is a stoic? A stoic is the one who found happiness with harmony with nature. So he walks around and experience nature. The Stoics love harmony because for them, good health comes from harmony with nature. If there's a disharmony with nature, then you become sick as well. Socrates has self-control. That's what temperate is all about. This is very important description, how you would describe a philosopher here. Another point about Socrates is that he claimed that there is a divine calling called the daimon, and who instructs him what to do in life. And here you have a very the Greek mindset of Socrates, who loves religion and who also associates his life with the gods. Now, Socrates was like any Greek guy who is so obedient to the gods, but he was accused of bringing some other gods because he investigates the heavens and also the earth. And he was denouncing the role of Zeus. We will watch the video later on that Zeus was being despised by Socrates because he was looking for natural answers, and he doesn't want people to think that it's all Zeus as the cause of everything. Okay, um, if you can just read this, Socratic method is the method in explaining something on the part of Socrates. How he offers questions, and if there is answer, then he objects, and then from the objection, he summarizes and asks a new question until the discussant was able to find answer. Okay, that is the method of Socrates in his Socratic method. Okay, there are many writings that Plato wrote in which you will realize the philosophy of Socrates. Okay, but we don't want to discuss all of this. We need more time on that. So what I will do is look at some videos that you can discuss the first question. Okay, so the first question is, what are the informations that I have to put here? I already put some, and you can add more on what you have discovered. I have a PowerPoint. There's a PowerPoint. Let me see if I can go back to the PowerPoint on Socrates. This is the PowerPoint here. Socrates here. So click this one. And you can use this to find information about who Socrates was on his time. Okay. And so don't limit yourself to one source. Try to explore other sources like this one. Okay. I mentioned the year. Okay. Velasquez was saying about Socrates that the best way to understand the nature of philosophy is to look at a philosopher in action, and that is Socrates. And Socrates is the father of Western philosophy. That's a good note here. Perhaps your quiz will have that question. Another important point in Socrates' philosophy is that I mentioned this as well, that he used Socratic method in the agora, but he was attacking powerful men, asking them questions about their opinions. Okay. And then he was speaking about justice and about virtue, in which the sophists become his enemies at the end. Now, during the time of the golden age of Athens, okay, there was no problem about blaming anyone. But when Athens was defeated in the battle against the Spartans, people were frustrated about the role of the government. And so Socrates was also blaming the government for this, but the government is blaming Socrates about this as well, because Socrates had students who are critical to traditional values and beliefs. And for the leaders of Athens, it was Socrates' questioning that made Athens become weak, and thus it loses its traditional values. And now it fell to the hands of the Spartans, for instance. Okay, so you can put that as part of your writing if you want. Oh, there are so many writings of Plato, the UT Pro, for instance. Uh, this is about holiness. Okay, so there are ideas about holiness there. In the Republic, this is where we will study in the allegory of the cave by next module. But in the allegory of the cave, it was Plato who is talking about his philosophy of the world. And we will not handle that in Socratic ideas for now. But in the Republic, there was a title that Socrates claimed himself to be what? The gadfly sent by God to the state, which is the question I think in number 4 in this journal ideas. We will go back in there. In the apology, this is what we will study. This is the trial of Socrates. Socrates was tried by almost or 501 Athenians in Athens, and he was accused by Miletus, Anytus, and Lycon. There were three uh, accusers, and we miss Lycon here, but in the video, there is Lycon. We will use that video to discuss more. There is work on Crito. We will use this in your extra credit next week. Crito was the guy who doubted about how will we bury you, Socrates, when you die. We can watch that in the video after this. And there was also Crito's role in advising Socrates to get out from prison. But Socrates said to Crito that he would not listen to anybody, but he will just do what is right. I cannot escape the judgment of the government. And that is the disposition of Socrates. Okay, some notes about his family. Santif was the name of the wife. By profession, by the way, Santif was a midwife. So the idea of midwife was very popular on Socrates in thinking about the role of a midwife to help deliver a baby. And Socrates was thinking that I will act also as a midwife in philosophy because I will help people deliver the truth by asking questions in the agora. That is what Socrates was saying. The significance of being a midwife is important for Socrates. This is another title that she would assume as a philosopher. Okay, so I think these are things that you can develop, and the PowerPoint is one, Payne's textbook is two, and then you have also the videos. Okay, so for number one, you can have a lot of information about Socrates, and I am showing you that you can write many, you can explore other sources, you can surf online what you can talk about on Socrates. The second question, and this is where the focus on the video that I asked you to watch, this video here. This is the accusations against Socrates in the trial. And who are the accusers? One is Miletus, second is Lycon, and the third one is Anytus. Okay, so think of these three. They are the one who will speak in the judgment in Athens. Okay, now in number 3 question, there is also in the video that speaks about the role of God in the prophecy in the oracle at Delphi. That God is the one telling Socrates, this is your mission as a philosopher, and so you are the wisest for me, even you claim ignorance. And that gives inspiration to Socrates to do act what is good, what is great, and what is true, no matter what, even to his death. Okay? Now, there is a video also, the same video here, that in the video, that Socrates said, I am a godfly sent by God to the state. And what does that mean? And we will listen to that video here. We'll go through those and to those narratives. And then the midwife of truth. And what is that midwife of truth? How he helped deliver ideas. So you have an idea already about these questions and how to develop them. Okay, so I would bring you to the video, and once we watch this video, as if like you have already seen the life and the story of Socrates, and I will stop now and then to give you some hints that this is important in explaining the journal ideas. What he meant.
Athens, 399 BC. The philosopher Socrates has been condemned, and his execution has just taken place. Friends of Socrates discuss his death.
We were all there. The guard, who was sympathetic, released him from his chains. I have never seen him calmer. He tried to probe the nature of death and immortality with us. But I felt that even he, with all the power of his mind, could not illuminate that darkness. And then Crito abruptly asked, "What way shall we bury you?" And he answered, "Any way you like."
Only and make sure I don't run away. I cannot make Crito believe I'm the same Socrates who's been conversing with you. He thinks I'm already the other Socrates you'll soon see, a dead body. He asks, how shall we bear him? I see my words with which I've been comforting you and myself have had no effect on Crito. Be of good cheer, friend Crito, and say you're burying my body only.
He then requested the poison be prepared and brought. The guard told him to drink deeply, walk until his legs grew heavy, and to lie down, and the poison would act. Such was the end of our friend. Of all men I have known, he was the wisest, most just, and the best.
Why was a man like Socrates put to death? At his trial, these were the charges that were brought against him.
Meletus, son of Meletus, of the deme of Pythia, accuses Socrates, son of Socrates, of the deme of Alopeke, of the following. Socrates is guilty of crimes in refusing to recognize the gods of the state and in introducing strange new divinities of his own. He is further guilty of corrupting the youth. Penalty requested is death. Are Meletus and those who joined with him in making this accusation ready to argue their case?
Yeah. Take the oath then.
I, Meletus,
I, Anytus,
I, Lycon,
swear that my previous deposition.
Listen to the accusations that will be made against Socrates. Decide if corrupting the youth and not recognizing the gods of the state are the real reasons Socrates is being tried.
My family, if I perjure myself.
Look also for parallels between this situation and the political and social confrontations that are occurring today.
All right, now this guy, his name is Meletus. So he will be the one the first one to speak in behalf of the 501 jurors. And the theme, the point of Miletus here is simply the one that I mentioned earlier, that people were not becoming happy about Athens because of the fall of Athens from the Spartans in history. And they were trying to look for the blame. Who is to be blamed on the fall of Athens? And Miletus was trying to show that it was Socrates because of his critical thinking that he was teaching students, and his students become rebellious against Athens at the time.
I wish to sketch for you a picture of the sorry time. You 501 citizen jurors of Athens, who will decide the fate of this man, Socrates. Is there one of you who does not remember Athens when Athens had wealth, power, empire? Our navy dominated the Aegean. The trade of nations was stored in our warehouses. Great walls surrounded our city and its ports. Magnificent temples were built. Genius flourished in every art. The whole world looked to us for leadership. What has befallen us? Our long walls destroyed, our olive trees burned, our trade ended, our treasury emptied, our navy lost, our empire gone, tens of thousands of our citizens dead. And who, more than any other man, was responsible for these disasters? Who was it? Alcibiades, with his mad schemes, his desecrations, his arrogance. And who was the teacher of this traitor Alcibiades? By whom was he guided? Socrates. Yes, Socrates. After we were overcome by the Spartans, their leader, Lysander, may the gods curse the very syllables of his name. Of the government here. Surely most of you have reason to remember this government. It was called the Council of 30, was it not? I see the memory is vivid.
You are Ionians, are you not?
You are Ionius! Answer!
Yes. Ionians. I've been told by a very creditable source that you spoke out in the marketplace. Was it not the marketplace?
Yes, the marketplace.
Against us.
No.
Praised the late discredited and corrupt democracy and spoke out against us. Your lawful government.
The family.
They will get a pension. Your warehouses will be taken over by the state.
We are very busy. Other cases must be heard. Greetings, Armides. The pair we all have cause to remember well. 1,500 put to death. 5,000 exiled. And whose disciples were they by their own admission? Socrates again. Behind disasters, traitors, tyrants, Socrates. This man who sits alongside me on this platform. This man of courage and probity, Eutychus, overthrew the Council of 30, restored democracy, declared an amnesty to bridge the differences that separated Athenians. Because of this peace declared by Eutychus, those like Socrates were unpunished for their political crimes. I accuse him of no political offenses. I only wish to remind you of what has happened and of what might happen again.
All right. So the next accuser will be Lycon. Now think about what Lycon wants to point here, because Socrates was becoming popular for being critical to religion, precisely because he doesn't want religion to be the reason why we will not to use reason. So there were so many satire or stories that are so against religion, against Zeus, against one of that is the play called The Clouds, for instance, where Socrates was uh, trying to travel in the clouds, trying to find answers. And there was a conversation with Marco. You will find that one here. That Marco was saying, "Oh, Socrates, what are you doing there?" And Socrates said, "Oh, I'm here trying to entertain my mind." And when Marco said, "Oh, Zeus must be pleased by that," and Socrates said, "I heard you saying Zeus. There is no Zeus. There's no God named Zeus." Now, if you are a member of Greek community who has been so loving about Greek gods, you will feel insulted by Socrates in that play. But Socrates saying that where does rain come from? When Marco was asking him, "Where? What about rain? Where does that come from? Is it Zeus as well?" And they said, "No, it's from the cloud." And cloud here is the natural answers. After all, Socrates here was using science, was using philosophy to understand reality, not just to point it to the supernatural. So let's listen to that.
Who's to speak next for the accused? I come. Greek laws have always been closely associated with religion. To submit to the law is to obey the gods. Yet despite the fact that piety has held the state together, we have seen a steady growth in disrespect of the gods. For not long ago, that great writer of tragedies, Aeschylus, could declare, "It is Zeus alone who shows the way to perfect knowledge. Through minds every road I pass, but all are vain, save that which names thee Zeus, the highest one." And in a few short years, we have progressed to this. The gods are like fleeting dreams. Faith in oracles is foolish. The writer of these impious words is here today. Euripides, disciple of... Indeed, son. Among those prosecuted for blasphemy, there was the philosopher Anaxagoras, who contended that the sun was a red-hot stone and the moon was made of earth. Whereas, as we all know, they are really traditional Athenian deities. And who was it who studied with Anaxagoras? Okay. Oh, and there was Protagoras, who contended that man, not the gods, is the measure of all things. And who professed admiration for Protagoras? You might recall that Protagoras was a sophist, one of that accursed crew of so-called philosophers, usually foreigners, who could speak learnedly on a subject whether they knew anything about it or not, who for money could teach you to make the worst side of an argument appear the better, so you could get ahead. Always arguing and questioning, these sophists destroyed men's faith in the old truths. They made our young people clever, but not wise. And who was the greatest questioner and arguer of them all? Yes, Socrates, the super sophist. Do you recall what our comic poet Aristophanes had to say about sophistical Socrates? Do you remember Aristophanes played the clown?
Okay, this is what I mentioned earlier, the play called The Cloud, wherein Socrates was trying to portray that he was not believing on Zeus as the source or center of all. Now, there's a reason why Socrates cannot say it's Zeus that caused the rain, etc. Precisely because Socrates wants to find natural answers here. But of course, it's fine. They would find it as an insult to religion.
Oh, Socrates, what do you want, Marco? What are you doing up there? I walk upon the air and elevate my mind. Only up here, dangling my vast intellect in the heavens, can I scientifically perceive the secrets of the universe.
By Zeus, what marvelous words!
Zeus? Did I hear you say Zeus? Are you mad, sir? There is no Zeus.
Zeus? Then who makes it rain?
Have you ever seen it rain out of an empty sky? No. But when there are clouds, it rains?
Yes.
Therefore, sir, it is the clouds that cause rain, not Zeus.
Powerfully argued. But what about thunder? Surely the gods cause thunder.
Reflect, sir. When you gorge yourself on your white stew, does not your belly rumble? Think of the rumble your tiny stomach makes. Then think of the sound the boundless clouds can produce when they have digestion.
Oh, sacred and wondrous thoughts, teach me to reason like you, O Socrates, and success will be mine.
A satire, to be sure, but scarcely more ridiculous than the man himself. With his bare feet, his dirty coats, his poverty, his endless question, and his anti-democratic tendencies.
Okay, now we have here Anytus is the third of those accusers, and the point here of Anytus' accusation is that he was a victim of corrupting the young because his son himself was lost because he followed Socrates.
For anyone here who knows me as anything but an honest man, blunt speaker, there is. I would hear his voice now. Coward? Speak up if you think I'm a coward. Cruel or vindictive man? Then listen to me carefully. Socrates regains his liberty. Your sons will be ruined by his words. They'll rebel against your authority and the sacred traditions of the state. I say this because exactly what happened to my own son.
Where are you going, boy?
Where am I going? To buy fish.
Where are you going to buy fish?
To the fish market by the Great Quay.
If you're going to buy vegetables, where would you go?
To Klein's stand in the market near the Agora.
And meat?
The same marketplace.
And where would you go to find wise and noble men? Huh? Follow me and be taught.
That moment, my son was no longer mine, his. Socrates, however, is not interested in leading the youth to wisdom, but in demonstrating that no one except himself is wise. My son now criticizes everyone, even our great men of earlier time. What is galling to me is that Socrates teaches this disrespect, yet he himself refuses to take part in public affairs. He does nothing but confuse and disrupt. No Spartan spy has been as dangerous as Socrates. He's destroyed the morality of our forefathers. Athens has been torn by war and tyranny. Our democracy has just been restored. Our city has the right, it has the duty to destroy such as he. Don't be misled by his glib words, his philosopher's eloquence. He will try to make... Just one more word. You frustrate the state. The vengeance it is due it for the transgression of this evil old man. The crime will fall on your own head. Vengeance of the gods will be on you.
Okay, so the three accusers were already said here. Now, that's a good one. The video can answer already number 2. Okay, so try to focus on number 2 with that part of the video. Now, the other part of the video is the oracle at Delphi. Now, during the speech of Socrates, try to listen very well, because Socrates would like to say that my mission is not from me, but from the God. So I would rather obey the gods than obey men. Okay?
The accused will speak now.
Men of Athens, how you have been affected by my accusers, I cannot tell.
Okay, we'll go to that oracle immediately.
Those who teach for money,
It's here.
in which a man called Socrates talks nonsense. Or they liken me to those who teach for money and instruct them how to make the worst cause appear the better. If you have ever heard me hold forth on these matters, I ask you to speak out now. A friend of mine, most of you, terrified.
Okay, Socrates here is telling about the guy named Cherifon. Cherifon is an old friend of Socrates who has been concerned about Athens. And he heard so many about Socrates being the wisest, but also he heard about the sophists as being wise as well. And so he would like to inquire from the God, because the God must have the answer. Who is the wisest of all? And Socrates knew this from his friends that Styropon went to the oracle and asked, and what the oracle was saying as well about him. And that is the reason why he bring out that idea that this is the mission I got from the oracle.
The oracle, let them.
Pythian prophetess, who speaks with the tongue of Apollo. Is any man wiser than Socrates? Priestess,
No man is wiser than Socrates. No man is wiser than Socrates. No man is wiser than Socrates.
When I heard that, I asked myself, what can the God mean? For I know I have no wisdom. Yet can gods lie? I thought, if I can find a man wiser than myself, surely no great task, then the oracle is mistaken. So I went to a politician with a reputation for wisdom. But when I spoke with him, I could not help thinking that he wasn't really wise at all, no matter what people said. I tried to explain that to him, but he became irritated with me. I thought, well, neither of us knows anything really beautiful or profound, but at least I am better off than this fellow, because he knows nothing and thinks he knows everything, while I know nothing. So I went.
Did you hear that line? That is what wisdom for Socrates, to claim ignorance, not the pretensions of the sophist. Now remember that he was not happy with the sophist and their pretensions. And I said, I am different, but the God, the oracle, Delphi, makes me the wisest because of that claim of ignorance.
From one person to another in search of wise. This inquiry, men of Athens, has made me many enemies, but it has led me to believe that only the gods are wise. And the oracle used my name by way of illustration. What he meant is he is wisest who, like Socrates, knows that his wisdom is worth nothing. What my enemies will never admit is that they're really angry because their pretense of knowledge has been shown up. Meletus, you good man and true lover of your country.
Okay, this is a very good portion of the trial, because he pointed out Miletus and discussed with Miletus about his accusation. But the point of Socrates here, he wanted to point contradictions, and that is the role of philosophy, and that is the thing that we discuss about rationality, how to think clearly, and you have to find out contradictions in someone's point, and this is where Socrates was very important here. This is the Socratic method.
Let me ask you a question. You think much about the improvement of you. Tell the jurors, who are the improvers of you? You must know, since you've taken the pains to discover their corrupter.
The laws improve youth.
Who knows the law?
Jurors,
They're able to instruct and improve you.
they are.
All of them, or only some?
All of them.
By Hera, that's good news. There are plenty of improvers. How about the people watching the trial today?
They are also improvers.
And the members of the Athenian Assembly, do they improve or corrupt?
Improve.
Evidently, every Athenian improves and elevates youth, while I alone corrupt them. Is that what you affirm?
I strongly affirm that you are their corrupter.
What about horses, Miletus? Takes an expert trainer to bring out the best in a horse, yet you claim an entire city can train our youths, while only I corrupt.
This is the word playing of a sophist.
As to the other part of your indictment, you say that I refuse to recognize the gods of the state. Does this mean that I do not believe in gods at all? That I'm an atheist?
I assure you, jurors, he believes in no gods whatsoever.
Yet your charge also claims that I'm guilty of introducing new divinities of my own. You claim that I'm guilty both of believing in gods and not believing in gods. Can a man believe in human affairs and not humans, or horsemanship and not horses, or flute playing and not flute players?
All right. Do you remember the law of non-contradiction? Now, here Socrates was, after all, trying to exercise that you cannot violate the law of non-contradiction. Law of non-contradiction was developed by Aristotle, but not Socrates. But Socrates, even at the time, was already pointing out to Miletus, you are contradicting yourself because you claim one thing and you also say that I am this. So I am now both believer and unbeliever at the same time. It is impossible to be like that. The law of non-contradiction says a statement cannot be both true and false at the same time.
I've said enough in answering Miletus's charges. Yet I know too well the enmities I have incurred, and these will be my destruction, not Miletus or Aeneas. But men of Athens, know this. No greater good has happened to the state than my service to the god.
Okay, now this time, guys, you have to listen very well. Socrates now proclaimed that he was only acting like a godfly sent by God to the state. Now, this is the idea number 4, that you need to develop in that summary.
For I do nothing but to go about persuading each of you, old and young alike, not to take thought about your person or property, but first to take care about the improvement of your soul. Think of the state as of a great horse, slow to move because of its size. I am the gadfly sent by the gods to sting the horse into action. All day long, in all places, I am fastening upon you, arousing, persuading, and reproaching.
Okay, that is a very good point. That answers. Okay, let's discuss number 3. What does that oracle then for Socrates? Now, simple answer would be the oracle confirms his divine commission to act in behalf of God, not to go against the prophecy of the oracle, to deny God's mission to his people. So for him, he is doing his philosophizing work in behalf of the gods. The wisest must act in behalf of the gods. Okay. Now, number 4, I am the gadfly sent by God to the state. What does this mean? Now, the example of Socrates was that, by the way, have you seen a gadfly? Do you know what a gadfly is? Any idea of a gadfly? Have you been in the zoo? When you go to the zoo and in big animals, you may be able to see gadfly. And that gadfly, on those gadfly, is the one that irritates the animals. Even how big the animals, these animals cannot sleep. If there is one gadfly, it's like big house flies. Imagine a house fly, it's very small. Multiply that by 10, like my nail here, the thumbnail. That I cannot imagine how big it is, but it will irritate a horse or a cow. Now, imagine Socrates was saying, imagine society is like a horse. Even how big is the horse, with one gadfly, that horse cannot sleep. Now, I am only like a gadfly. I'm very small person. I am poor. I have nothing. But with my voice, I irritate you. I disturb you. Now I am a gadfly. And that is the role of a philosopher that God gave me as a gadfly. And that what God gave me is part of the mission that is proclaimed in the oracle at Delphi. Okay, and the last part is the midwife of truth. And after all, the role of a philosopher is the midwife. Now, anyone who knows the work of a midwife, what's the work of the midwife? What's the work of the midwife? To help what? Anybody who would think of the work of the midwife? To help deliver what? The baby. Okay? Now, a midwife is a helper. Now, a midwife doesn't own the baby. Remember that also. A midwife does not own the baby. It's the mother who owns the baby. Now, Socrates would say that as a midwife of truth. So the work of midwifery is also true, or is happening when I ask questions and you provide answers. Your answers, okay, those are ideas or insights, are like okay, your answers. Okay, your answers are like babies. They are like babies born from the mother. And those insights, by the way, those insights are all yours, not mine. I don't own those insights. You, as the mother of those ideas, you own them. And so your mind is pregnant of ideas. And the moment I ask you questions and you deliver those ideas to me, you become a mother. You have babies that evolve here. And some students that I have working on journals cannot see the meaning of this midwife if they will not think very well. And I could tell if a student got the point if they were able to state the meaning of midwifery in philosophy. So all teachers must have the role of a midwife to their students. My role is to bring ideas. And what we are doing here in philosophy is to bring out your ideas about something. Now, if you are willing to give your answers, then you are delivering your babies from your mind. Okay, so that will be the point that we have for this journal. As I said, here you have to develop different accusation. So try to write what is the accusation of Miletus, and then what is the accusation of Lycon accusations. Okay, and then you have Anytus. So try to look at the video again if you don't know the accusations and the meaning of the oracle at Delphi. If you watch the video, you can also see the oracle was saying that it is Socrates as the wisest of all. Okay, and this is from the mouth of the prophetess and prophetess is the spokesman, okay, spokesperson of Apollo in the altar at Delphi. Okay, so try to develop that, and this is the source of inspiration and mission of Socrates as a philosopher. Okay, so think about the importance of this oracle to Socrates. And then the gadfly idea, and the gadfly is that Socrates is like a gadfly that disturbs the animals. Okay, even how big they are, they cannot sleep. And then society cannot sleep with Socrates. Critique, okay, and questioning. Okay, and that he became a gadfly to them because he irritates them. Now, Socrates become irritating for the people. So, are there other questions? I think we have answered all the accusations. You can submit this by Sunday. That is day 7. Okay, let's see our time. I think we have a few more minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. I will stop the recording here as you have no questions.